Hello guys, in this video we're going to cover a mapping technique that I've been trying to perfect here for a little while. Um, this is definitely the best result that I've gotten so far, and I just want to go over this a little bit. Most of the time you have this issue when you're mapping a grandstand, especially a curved grandstand like this. This is actually two grandstands in one object. It will be sliced off, um, right about here. And that will be a separate piece, or a separate texture anyways, but a lot of times you'll get into situations where you try to map it and it is nearly impossible to get these lines for staircases to be straight. They end up with terrible warping. If you make this, wedge shape right here, and I'll just click on the face so you can see. So that would be one face. If you square that off, then this is going to be stretched out and this is going to be squished together, and or vice versa. This is going to be squished together. This is going to be stretched out. So I wanted to go over a technique of being able to do this and get perfectly straight lines. So the first thing we'll talk about is the texture and how I got the lines that you see underneath. This will work on a satellite image. This particular one's taken a screenshot from iRacing. It's the best top-down view of Bristol that we could use. So you'll see that, excuse me, that we have these red lines here where the staircases are. And to make that, what I do is make a new layer. I use the pen tool over here in Photoshop. This is CS6, by the way. Photoshop CS6. Using the pen tool, and I'll just make the fill color and the stroke color red. And the reason for using the pen tool is because if I don't exactly get that lined up, what I can do is hold Control, grab that point, and you're probably not going to be able to see it on the video, but there's a line there moving. I'll move it a little bit exaggerated so you can see it. But now I can drag that around. And the reason for doing that is because my model is going to be covering up where the staircases are. Now you can, if you've got this applied to a plane, I'll show you just so you're fully aware of what I'm talking about. You see the red lines sticking out. If I've got that plane selected, I can raise it up, and you can see how the staircases line up perfectly. I mean, you can do your modeling and stuff like this with this halfway up the model or something. I mean, I find it easier to go ahead and paint those red lines and just extend it out past onto the texture there, so I know exactly where they're sticking out. But yeah, doing that with the pen tool, you can grab those points by holding Control and moving that line and getting that lined up perfectly. When you go to do another one, just make another layer. I'm just hitting Control Shift N to make a new layer, or you can just layer, new layer. Do each one of those on a separate one, and then save the texture as a BMP or whatever. Apply that to the plane under the grandstand. On the grandstand itself, you can see that I have each one of those sections of the grandstand cut out as its own polygon. I've gone over it in other videos, so I'm not going to cover it here, but basically under editable poly I just did let's see if it won't freak out here. Under polygon, here, I'll show you real quick, it's not that big a deal. Polygon, cut, snapping, and snap to edge toggle, or snap to edge segment toggle. Excuse me there. And let me turn on edge faces so you can see the edges. In that case, all it did was simply, as long as that box is yellow right there, basically I want my mouse cursor to be inside that yellow box when I click. And obviously I've already done it where the line is, but I would click there, it would draw a white line across the polygon, and then I would do the same thing at the other side, and it would create that new slice. if I, in this particular case, I had already uh, made the outer shape, so I ended up with a bunch of tiny little slivers of polygons. In that case, what I did was just went through and selected each little piece for this segment of the grandstand, deleted it, and then created a new polygon using the vertex snap. So I just draw a new wedge shape there, basically to replace all those little polygons. Hopefully that makes sense. I didn't plan on showing that whole process in this video, but really just wanted to show the mapping. So let's go ahead and put the unwrap modifier back on there. And I want to show you how to do this last face on that part of the grandstand there. And I'm going to turn that off, so I'm just pressing F2 so we can see underneath the selection. It's still selected. I just hit F2 and it deselects or hides that selection red overlay on top of it. So just hitting F2 to turn that off so we can see. And I'm going to hit the quick planar. And I'm going to open the editor. Try to position this to where you can see it. Make sure my texture is selected there. Alright. So the next thing I want to do is turn off the other faces, so I'm only working with the selected one. That's the red triangle with the light bulb down there. And make sure I'm in the freeform mode tool. And I'm going to freeform this, and basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to line the left edge up vertically. Let me move this over here so you can see it just a little bit better. Just want to get that left edge lined up perfectly straight up and down. Then what I can do is go back to the vertex here, select the right side verts, and what I'm doing is trying to get the top flat. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to select the bottom one. I'm going to bring it up. Doing it this way keeps the scaling exactly the same. So now I'm going to align that, align the top, and align the bottom. Now I can select all those verts, turn off the filter, and you can see the texture, how I've got it set up. I've got just the one here and half of one over here. The rest of it is just the seats repeating. And I'll go ahead and turn that back off. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here to this corner and get that as close as I can. I'm going to go down to the bottom. I'm going to hold Control and select that bottom corner, and that will uniformly scale the entire thing. What I'm looking to do is bring that very bottom even with the other bottoms. Okay. Now if we look over here, the other thing that I want to focus on, we're on this face right here, is the size of the benches. In this case is what those white lines going down the center represent. And I want to make sure, in this case it's pretty close, but if you can see over here, select that bottom corner and hold shift and drag over to the right, I can adjust the width scaling. It also affects the width of the staircase, but you notice it's perfectly lined up with that right side. There's no skewing, there's no warping. So I can adjust that wherever I want it to be. Let's somewhere, probably right there. Now it looks funky in here, but that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for uniformity, no warping, and if I go over here and turn edge faces off, you can see that those lines look perfect. I mean, I don't think there's any other way to do it and get that type of clean result. Now, if you're working on a grandstand that it's perfectly square and all that kind of stuff, you can flatten map it. Of course, that's not going to be an issue. But for these types of grandstands that go around corners, and you want those staircases to be perfectly straight, yeah, I mean, you can see that there is hardly any warping anywhere in that. That's probably the best looking grandstand map I've ever seen. So I just wanted to go over that technique there, and hopefully that helps you build some awesome grandstands. So I'll leave the video there. Thanks for watching.